all, I'm super excited to be here, and thank you again for joining us on this webinar. I know that the week can be busy, so thank you for carving out some time. So whether you're new to running, or maybe you're tired of plateaus, or you just want to get faster, or maybe you're tired of getting injured, what we know is that strength can be a key, crucial part in helping you run at your very best not only for now, but also for the long haul. And we've had thousands of runners over the past 25 years PR just from adding strength training and fixing up the running gait, which is something that we offer too. We'll talk about that later. But I want this to be all of you this year. I want you to be running your best year this year. And if we can help you do that by helping you get a little bit stronger and know what to do in the gym, I think it's gonna be really exciting for you to see the progress you're gonna make there. So real quick, as you all know, just keep your sound off until the live Q&A after the webinar. If you do have any questions while the webinar is playing, I want you to write them down in the chat so we can get into answering those questions right away. I also want you to, if you can, grab a notepad or something you can type on, because I want you to remember what you learned so that I can quiz you at the next run, Craig. Just kidding. So that you can get this down and be confident at home, be confident in the gym, that you know what you're doing with your technique. So that being said, we're going to dive into the masterclass. I will be available right after for the live Q&A if you have any specific questions, but please write your questions in the chat so I can get those sorted out before we get into the Q&A. But that being said, Larry, you want to take this away?
So what if I told you that the key to running stronger, longer, and with fewer injuries isn't just running more, but something that you might be avoiding as a runner? I know that might sound kind of surprising, but I've seen this firsthand for the past 25 years. Hi, I'm Dr. Jerry Yu, founder of Next Level Physio, and my team and I specialize in helping runners and lifelong athletes over 40 optimize their running performance, reduce the risk of injuries, and train smarter. We also work closely with the Rutgers University Run Lab, serving as a clinical research site for running. So believe me when I say this, running performance is our main thing. Well, but what about my team and I? We do practice what we preach. We're all runners, or triathletes, or even CrossFitters. And that is why I know what it's like to deal with setbacks, because I've had many of them. Injuries, missed PRs, performance plateaus. They really do suck. But I want to encourage you that there is some good news. Most of these setbacks are avoidable. And by the end of this masterclass, you're gonna learn 5 things that maybe you knew, maybe you didn't know. How to optimize your running longevity by taking control of 3 key variables. Here's a hint. Y'all are really good at one of those key variables. Number 2, how to get full body strength by adding the 5+3 core movements that all runners need to do. Number 3, how to get the most out of your strength training with the 4 pillars. Number 4, I'm gonna help you figure out a simple way to determine the right amount of weight to use, even if you already have been lifting weights. And finally, number 5, how you can save time in the gym using 2 program variations for your strength needs as a runner. Remember, strength needs, just like anything else, have to be specific to what your goals are. And runners' goals are often very different from the rest of the population. But my ultimate goal about this masterclass is to help change your mind on how you prioritize strength training. Because I found that many runners often put strength training off to the side or on the back burner. But before we dive in, I just wanted to give a special thanks to Gavin and Gina over at Fleet Feet Raleigh for helping us make this masterclass event possible. So let's talk about longevity. Here's my current working definition. Longevity is living a long life as the best version of ourselves at any age. So whether you're 30 or 80, doesn't matter. You want to be living at your best self. And to do that, you need to take control of 3 key variables. So write this down. Longevity equals V plus M plus N. The V stands for VO2 max, which is a measure of your cardio fitness. And if you guessed, that the V was going to be something that runners are good at. That is absolutely true. Letter M stands for muscle preservation, which you're going to get through your strength training. The letter N stands for nutrition. Fueling your performance and recovery is vital. But here's the interesting part. So runners, they're already great at doing activities that improve or maintain VO2 max. Congratulations. But most runners that I've met over the past 25 years are not so good at strength training or at the right nutrition. So these are areas of opportunity that runners can take after this masterclass to become the better version of themselves to enhance their longevity. These are also the areas where the problems start, because strength training and nutrition are what I believe make runners more resistant to injury and more resilient when they do get injured. And just like any other sport out there, running is a sport where you're not going to be immune to injuries. But I believe that if we can add strength training and we can eat properly, eat enough, especially protein, especially carbs, we have a pretty good shot at keeping ourselves primed to recover and to bounce back from injuries sooner. And we've had many success stories to prove that.
It's been awesome. It feels like a family when we walk in here. When I walk in here, I feel challenged. I know that there's a plan for me every time I walk in here.
It's been life-changing. After I started coming in, you guys gave me such a structured program. I knew exactly what I was supposed to be doing. And it really was helping because I don't have pain anymore and I'm doing more conditioning than I was doing before I came here.
Oh, that's awesome.
I came in here and I recovered while being active. I didn't take any other time off. I came in here on days, sometimes not long after I was either at a boot camp or did a run, and I didn't have to shut things down. So that's one of the things that I really like the most, because I have always feared the idea of repair and therapy, meaning
Gotta stop.
taking time off. Right? You think of like having surgery and having to wait.
So the question is, but if we know that strength training is good for us, why is it that so many runners seem to avoid it? Well, there are 5 top reasons that I want to share with you that I hear every single day at the clinic. Number 1, and this is probably the most common one, Dr. Jerry, I don't have the time. And I get it, because a lot of parents out there especially are busy with life and kids and family. It's hard to do that. But if I told you that if it's done right, that a strength training session shouldn't take more than 30 to 40 minutes. Number 2, Dr. Jerry, I don't want to get injured at the gym again. This often happens when runners lift too much, too soon, with poor technique maybe, or they're poorly recovered between running workouts. Number 3, Dr. Jerry, I don't want to get bulky and slow. Well, what if I told you that's super hard for runners in particular to put on muscle? And that if we focus on strength, you will not get bulky. I can pretty much guarantee that. So think about getting stronger without putting on all those pounds of muscle, which again, super hard for runners. Number 4, I have been strength training, Dr. Jerry, but I haven't seen much progress. This is also a very common issue. And it's often because there's one key issue that we're going to talk about later on. Finally, strength training is boring, Dr. Jerry. Well, I would say that many people feel the same way about running. But the reality is that training for anything in life is not meant for entertainment.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
So let's get into the 5 plus 3. I want you to write this down, 5 plus 3. So there are 5 core movement patterns that I believe every runner should be doing. And I'm going to show you what these movement patterns look like and the types of exercises for these movements so you have a good understanding when I talk about them. The first one is going to be a pull.
There are 2 primary options for pull type movements. One would be the vertical type, which should be something like pull down machine over in the gym, or a pull-up variation. For the horizontal, that can be any type of row motion. So for any kind of pull, what we're doing is pulling a weight or resistance towards your body, as you can see in this video. You want to focus on leading with the elbow to ensure more engagement from the muscles in the back. And as always, keep your head and spine in a relatively neutral position.
Second one, press.
The main options for press would also be horizontal or vertical. A vertical option might be a shoulder press where you're lifting a weight or resistance above your head. An example of a horizontal push might be a chest press or a push-up. Again, we want to keep our head and spine in relative neutral, and we are pushing or pressing away from your body when we do a press.
Third, a squat.
So when we get to the squat, things become a little bit more detailed. So I want to make sure that we get this right because I see a lot of runners struggle with this movement. So you're going to stand with your feet shoulder width apart, and slightly wider is totally fine depending on your anatomy. Your toes will normally point forward, but for some of us, pointing them out slightly is going to be preferred, again, because of our anatomy, and that is totally fine. You should feel your body weight evenly distributed across the bottom of your feet. Keep your chest proud, and I want you to think of the top of your head going to the ceiling. Next, I want you to pretend to be punched in the stomach, which will help to engage the abs. When you actually do the squat, your knees are allowed to go over your toes, contrary to popular belief. Now, there's some instances where we may not do that, depending on what the runner is coming in for, but that is totally fine if you don't have any issues there. When you stand from the squat, I want you to think about pushing the world away. So you want this to be a forceful, strong movement as you return to the standing position. You'll notice in the second clip that we have a split stance version, which is going to focus on single leg power and strength.
For a hinge.
Now, the hinge is also an exercise that many runners struggle with because it's not a motion that we do normally or think about. So what I want you to do is stand with your feet shoulder width apart, toes pointed forward, and here's the main cue that I want to give you here. I want you to think about your butt going to the back wall. By doing that, you're going to naturally shift your weight towards your heels, which I want you to feel. And if you notice in the clip, my back is flat at the bottom of the rep. And I don't want to see rounder shoulders here. I want to see a back that is relatively flat at the bottom of the rep. Also, I want you to notice that my shins are relatively vertical. So if I'm doing this correctly, I should feel quite a bit of tension on my glutes and on my hamstrings. And I should feel the muscles in my back also engaged.
5, a carry.
The reason why I love a carry so much for runners is because it helps runners to practice standing tall and upright. It also helps to challenge balance because we're holding a weight on one side of the body, which throws off our balance a little bit. It also engages the core and other muscles of stability on each side, including the glute medius, which is an important stabilizer of the pelvis. So you get all that just from carrying a weight with intention here.
Our +3 are essentially supplemental movements that I think runners should add into the programming to ensure their longevity in running. And here's why. So you already know that running is a sport where you're going in one direction. Maybe you'll have a little bit of a lateral movement because you want to go around somebody in a race. But when we're looking at longevity in running, especially the longevity of the joints and mobility and health of the joints, we don't do a lot of rotation or lateral movements in running.
So rotation would mean any movement that involves turning your whole body or your lower or upper half separately. In the clip that you see here, I'm doing a curtsy lunge. So what I'm doing here is now adding rotation at the hip, knee, and ankle, which is something that's vital to keeping the joints healthy in runners. In the example to the right here, you'll see that we're doing a lateral lunge. And again, lateral movements are great because they're going to challenge that particular plane of motion, which runners don't get a lot of.
And so it's really important to add those into your programming to make sure that you get the most out of your joints over time. Now, plyometrics are an amazing way to be able to maintain tendon resilience and health, especially for the Achilles, if anyone out there has been suffering from an Achilles tendon issue. So that's why these 3 supplemental movements are really important for helping runners stay injury resistant. But now let's talk about the pillars for strength training that can help you get the most out of your workouts, because I don't want you to waste your time. I want you to write this down, CTCS. Compound movements is our first C. And with compound movements, we want to be hitting large muscle groups and multiple muscle groups for the sake of time and to get the most out of our workouts. The letter T is for tension. So here is a reason why a lot of people who do work out and do strength train don't get a lot of gains. You have to lift heavy enough to create real muscle adaptation to that stress. And that if you don't lift heavy enough and all you're doing is lifting light weights, then you're not going to feel the progress in strength because you're not doing anything to stimulate the muscle to get stronger. The second C is consistency. So just like with running longer or faster, strength training isn't optional or something you can just add onto your program because you won't progress unless you stay consistent. You have to look at strength training as part of your running plan and really take it seriously. And the S, which is single side training. Running is a single leg sport. So we need to train each side separately and you'll see what I mean when we get down into the programming. I can promise you that if you apply these 4 pillars to your training, that you will get stronger, faster, and stay injury resistant. Well, wait, what about reps, sets, and rest? I'm a little confused about that, Dr. Jerry. Well, in general, I'm gonna say this in general, for developing strength, we're looking at anywhere from 3 to 5 reps, 3 to 5 sets, with 3 to 5 minutes of rest and recovery for the muscle group that's worked between sets. So you might have noticed already that it's not a lot of reps. Many of you are doing like 15 reps, 20 reps, and whatnot. And that should excite you because you're gonna save some time. But the key here is this, it's gotta be heavy enough. But there's one caveat. So for runners who are novice lifters, I prefer to have them do, say, 6 to 15 reps for 2 to 3 sets for the first month at a moderate to moderately heavy weight, because I wanna make sure that they have enough rep volume to feel what's being worked and to focus on technique. That connection is really important so that when we go heavier, we will have the right foundation down to progress and advance in our weights. Well, you might be asking, well, how do I figure out how much weight to use then? The 10 rep max is a very easy way to figure this part out. In a nutshell, and let's just use a squat as an example. You're gonna do a series of activation drills and light warm-ups that are specific to the movement that you're going to test for the 10 rep max, because you wanna get your body primed and ready for the set. So what we wanna do is figure out the right amount of weight where 10 reps is challenging and puts enough tension on your muscles being worked, but it's still doable. And then what's gonna happen is when we design your programs, you want your squats to be about 80% of that weight. So for example, let's just say that you're doing a 10 rep max test for a squat, and we find that 100 pounds is what you can handle, and it's challenging enough. The program we're gonna build around you is gonna be so that you'll be using around 80 pounds to make sure that the right amount of tension and intensity is placed on those muscles. Now, in one of our bonuses, I will give you the step-by-step direction on how to actually figure out your 10 rep max, so don't worry about that right now. And there is some trial and error here, but once you figure out that baseline, we're going to remeasure the 10 rep max in about 4 to 6 weeks to measure and see what progress has been made since we started. Now, let's put this all together, and I put together a couple of very simple training plans, but these are ones that you can actually start tomorrow, which is great. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna do a main lift exercise, which is gonna be the dominant focus of that workout, followed by a combination of other exercises to support the muscles worked in that main lift, and maybe even in some other muscle groups. Now, you can refer to the 5+3 list that we went over so you can see how I plug the movements into the workouts. And again, there are many, many, many ways that we can do this. And so these are just some very simple examples of what you can do at home to start working your strength. So for example, let's just say on Monday, you want to focus on your upper body and you want to choose your main lift as the dumbbell chest press, which is a press focused movement. That would be 3 to 5 sets of say 5 reps. Now, pairing that with a dumbbell row, which is a pull focused exercise, you can do 2 sets of 8 to 12 reps per side. And finally, an incline push-up with a press focus, 2 sets of 8 to 12 reps as well. And that's a body weight kind of exercise. And as your finisher, you could do a farmer's tiptoe carry, which will work the calves and abdominals, 3 sets of 30 seconds for that exercise. Now you split that on Monday with Wednesday being your lower body workout. That might be if you want to do, say, for example, a dumbbell suitcase deadlifts as your hinge focus exercise and your main lift, which means, again, as your main lift, you're going to go heavy. So 3 to 5 sets of 5 reps, followed by Bulgarian split squats, which is going to work single leg strength, 2 sets of 8 to 12 reps per leg, followed by step ups, which develops single leg power and stability. Again, 2 sets of 8 to 12 reps per side at a lighter weight. And then say you want to add banded chops, which will work the rotational and actually diagonal planes, 2 sets of 12 to 15 reps. And as a finisher, the Russian med ball twist, which works rotation, 3 sets of 30 seconds for as hard and fast as you can. So looking at Monday and Wednesday, you have split up your upper body from your lower body. Now, let's say, for example, you want to work your full body on a Monday and Thursday with 2 days in between. The reason I put that there is because you might need a couple of days rest because you will have running built into your program as well. So a full body workout might look something like this, where you're going to do Romanian deadlifts And that's gonna be your main lift. So you're gonna go 3 to 5 sets of 5 reps. Again, we're going heavy on that main lift. Followed by kettlebell reverse lunges, which is gonna work single leg strength and stability. 2 sets of 8 to 12 reps per side at a lighter weight. Followed by pull-ups, which would be a pull focus. That'll be 2 sets of 8 to 12 reps. You might need a band if you can't do pull-ups to support your weight, but that's gonna be your pull. Followed by your overhead dumbbell press, which is a press focus. Again, 2 sets of 8 to 12 reps at a lighter weight. So that would be an example of a full body workout. Now, for option 3, and this is how I like to save time, you can build a time-efficient circuit and be done with your strength programming for the day in about 30 to 35 minutes, including a warm-up. I am a huge fan for recommending circuits or even supersetting, which is doing 2 exercises back-to-back for runners because of the time savings. And this is what runners love because they don't feel like they have to spend hours at the gym. In fact, you can take any of the workouts that we went over for the full body, upper body, or lower body splits and turn those into a circuit or superset. So what do I mean by circuit? It means that you will do a few exercises in succession and then repeat that for multiple rounds so that you're not really resting during your exercise. You're actually moving the entire time. The beauty is that you save time, you're working at high intensity, so you get it done. For example, for supersetting, if you don't know what supersetting is, would be, say, for example, you did a chest press, and instead of waiting for the 3 to 5 minutes of rest, you go directly into, say, a dumbbell row, and then go back and forth between the chest and your back for that row, so that you're working 2 different body parts for the upper body, and then you're done. And that's what's so great about, again, circuits or supersetting. So here's one example that I might recommend for a runner if they're looking to do a circuit. That will be 5 rounds of the following: heavy dumbbell squats, which obviously works your lower body, and that'd be 5 reps going really heavy, followed by a heavy bent over row, which is good for your upper body, of course, for strength, 5 reps of that, followed by a heavy set of farmer's carries for about 30 seconds on each arm. You're gonna do that for 5 rounds, and then go to a finisher, which might be a fast jump rope interval. So 3 rounds of 10-second sprints, so super fast jump rope or jumping jacks, something like that, followed by a 10-second rest for 3 rounds. So having said that, I hope that was very helpful, but here's the deal. I just gave you a blueprint on how to transform your running performance by taking strength training more seriously, but the knowledge isn't enough and you need to take some action, which is why I have 3 special bonuses for you for today. So bonus number 1 is our runner's assessment. Value is $395, but you get a personalized breakdown of your weak points, as well as a roadmap to how you can improve those weak points so you can become optimized for this year. We also include a running gait assessment so that we can see if there are any areas of opportunity for you to improve in your running so that you can get faster and run more efficiently. The best thing is that you don't have to be injured to come in for this runner's assessment. Bonus number 2 is an 8-week strength program for runners, which is valued at $250. And that is a fully structured plan for the next 8 weeks to get you started right away. Finally, bonus number 3, which is our regenerative recovery session, which is valued at $750. And that includes our shockwave therapy, performance dry needling, and BFR training, which all enhance healing and recovery. So wait. Here is the best part. The total value is over $1,000, but for coming onto this masterclass, you get all of this for 100% free, no risk to you. So if you take some action today, click the link below in the comments to sign up for your regenerative session and your runner's assessment. Listen, my team and I can't wait to help you become the strongest, fastest, and most injury-resistant runner that you can be. And hey, if you found this helpful, please consider subscribing to my channel, Next Level Physio, so that we can keep bringing you and many other runners around the world more ways to level up your training.
Alrighty, we're going to open this up for live Q&A. We got some people joined in. It looks like Emma, Katie, and a couple of people. But if there are any questions that you have specifically about what we went over, and by the way, you will also get a replay of this so that you can take this with you to the gym and just pull up the form section if you have any questions about the form. So there's no confusion on what you need to do in the gym as far as exercise technique goes. If anyone wants to unmute themselves, they can start. Or forever hold your peace. Oh, so one question came up actually, and I'll just address this real quick. So how long should you be doing strength training for before you expect to see a change? Typically speaking, it's about 4 to 6 weeks for the strength gains to start happening, and about 8 weeks, 8 to 10 weeks, where our bodies will start to change in a good way. And again, like I said in the video, we're not looking at trying to bulk people up. That is not going to happen from the way that you train using a strength focused kind of program. It just doesn't happen. If you want to build for hypertrophy, which is muscle size and bulk, it's a totally different animal. Requires a very keen awareness of your diet, especially because you got to put on the calories to be able to put muscle bulk on. And to be honest, some runners could probably benefit from that, especially if you run on the leaner side, because putting on muscle is going to help you just maintain the muscle and preserve it over time and over next few decades. But typically speaking, about 4 to 6 weeks before I start feeling gains, and about 8 to 10 weeks before we start seeing gains. Another question that one person asked was, how do you fit it all in? Like, you got your running going on. Should I be doing it 3 times a week or 4 times a week in season, or should I be focusing on my running? What is the deal there? So again, I would say that if your goal is to run, and that's pretty much everyone on the call here, then your running should be your focus. In season, I recommend typically if you can do at least 2 days a week, if not 3. And again, if you looked at the webinar, it's only about 30 to 35 minutes. In fact, we have a lot of runners who will do their strength and then run afterwards, or they'll run first and then do their strength, that kind of thing, or within hours apart, same day. That way you can kind of split things up and not be totally pressured to be, oh, I've spent like an hour and a half at the gym to get my weights in. That's not the case here. We can really make this very efficient for you by focusing on the things that you need to focus on, especially if time is a concern or issue for you. Another question came up, which was, listen, if you kind of snap, crackle, pop, and listen, if you're over the age of 30, which is myself included, I snap, crackle, pop all the time. The only reason when I'm concerned about snap, crackle, pop is if it causes pain, and if it's like a lot of discomfort, in which case we need to check that out. But unfortunately, or fortunately, however it is, as you get older, as you get younger, these kinds of things do happen. So I wouldn't worry about those things from keeping you back from lifting. That being said, the other reason why people skip out on strength training, which is what I mentioned before in the webinar, is that, listen, I got hurt at the gym. I don't want to do something to get injured again. And I can promise you that if you follow the technique, although technique, as perfect as you can be, if you can follow the technique, you're going to have a much better chance of staying safe and not getting injured, because we have a lot of people who show me what their squat looks like, a lot of runners, and what their deadlift looks like, what their hinge looks like, and they're totally wrong. It's totally off. They've been taught either the wrong way or they practiced the wrong way. But if you follow the step-by-step pattern that I put on for the technique, you will be able to execute without having any discomfort or pain. It should be. Now, that being said, some people, especially with the squat, I want to say, have a really hard time keeping that proud chest, keeping that chest up. And a lot of it has to do sometimes with ankle mobility is a big factor, and hip mobility. And sometimes the easiest fix might be, okay, well, instead of trying to do the squat without any support, if you do a box squat or bench squat, which is basically getting your weight and going from a seated position on a box at the gym or on a bench, you will be able to maintain that proud chest position without having to worry about your form on the way down. So keeping that upright posture is very important for the squat. And if it's hard for you to achieve because of those two things, then easily you can modify that by going on a box. For the same reason, for some runners, getting to a deeper depth where your thighs are about 90 degrees to the ground, which is an optimal position, I would say that if that is difficult for you as well, then also using a box is a very easy modification that you can use to do that. Finally, one other modification for the squat is if you do have ankle mobility issues, and many runners have this issue, it's just an adaptation. There's nothing wrong with having tight calves. I just want to make sure that's clear. But if you do have tight calves and it makes your squat hard to do, then one quick modification you can do is actually just lift up your heels. So I often tell runners, hey, listen, grab 2 small plates at the gym, or if you're at home, grab a textbook, grab a book, and put it underneath your heels. And you will actually accommodate for the tightness in your calves. So when you go down to the squat, you'll be surprised how well you can maintain that upright position. And that's an easy fix that you can do while you're working on your ankle mobility. The things that we do with strength training are things that we can do to improve and amplify our running by working on a couple of things at home or at the gym. And ankle mobility and mobility in general is also one of the things where if you work on these things outside of your workouts, stuff like that, and do a couple of things on a regular basis, you will improve your mobility over time. Doesn't matter how old you are, how young you are. That is definitely that soft tissue that can be changed. So I want to make sure that you're encouraged to know that. Let's see. Can muscle soreness from strength training negatively impact running longer distance? I would say that 8 out of 10 times after you get past the implementation phase of strength training. So if you first start out like anything else, like if you haven't run for a while, of course you're going to be sore. But when you're doing strength training right, you should not feel massively sore, which is what you might get if you do the 15, 20, 25 reps. That happens very often. So strength training, I can tell you right now, I rarely get sore. I just feel like I got a pump and I feel really good, especially after practicing for so much. You'll feel tired, and that might be a good day that you would do an easy run, for example, because you may be a little more fatigued. But I don't expect you to, once you get into a program of strength training, you do it regularly. I don't expect that soreness to impact your running for long distances at all. Yeah, it's funny. Yes, I would say technique is the biggest issue that I see among our running population. And listen, if you had no other time, and you're like, Dr. I get no time at all, really, I can barely get my run in, then just focusing, I would say, on the squat and the hinge. If you don't want to do upper body, you're just like, I just want to get my legs in there, fine. That'll, literally take about 25 minutes to get both in there, to be honest. And once you do your 10 rep max test, and once you get your weight set for your baseline and work from there, it really shouldn't take you that long. And if you can work on the form and technique, just watch those videos over again and just practice those over and over. Look in front of a mirror or videotape. What I tell a lot of runners when they're doing lifting for the first time, and we have a lot of virtual clients, I'll have them, hey, listen, record yourself squatting, record yourself doing a deadlift, record yourself doing a push-up or shoulder press, so that I can make sure that your form and technique are good enough, at least, that you're not going to put yourself in a position where it's going to cause some issues later down the line. And that's the last thing I want you to have or experience when you are doing this. I want to make your life easier, and I want you to get stronger from this. I don't want you compromising your running as a result. From Craig, what days are best to do the strength training around running? Example, Tuesday speed work, Saturday long run. I would say if your speed work is going to be on a Tuesday, Wednesday or Thursday might be a great day. So you have a day in between because you probably trashed your legs on a speed workout. So having at least the 24-hour recovery before you do that. So for example, we had our speed workout on Tuesday night at the museum. I might do that Wednesday night, so I have some time to recover. This might change if you're a beginner because you're still getting used to the form and technique. So give yourself some grace for 4 to 6 weeks. But once you get into the routine of lifting, just like you do with running, it'll be easier to manage where you put that weight because you're not looking for a 1 rep max after this. You're not looking to lift extremely heavy weight like some of these guys do powerlifting. That's not our goal with running for strength in strength training for runners. It's to put enough stimulus to get the strength that you need to get the adaptation to get stronger. And that's what's going to help you build your foundation better so that when you do run, it's going to be even easier for you. So hopefully that answers your question there, Craig. Muscle strength, we got that one. What are so from Emma? What are some recovery movements that you recommend for those active recovery days? Great question. So it can be either some combination of one or two things. It can be either mobility days. So there are days where I have about 20, 30 minutes where I just work on specific mobility drills. And I think I might do another webinar on that, by the way. But if you have any questions, Emma, if I ever see you, I can send you some stuff that will help you and maybe everyone on the call here. Like, hey, these are some very easy mobility drills. We actually do some of these at the Art Museum on Tuesday nights, but I can go into more depth on what those actually are hitting or what they're doing, so you can incorporate those into your recovery days. But aside from that, even if you do some light cross training aside, I don't know if you have access to a pool. I also do triathlon, so I also bike and I also swim. So those are nice, easy things to do on recovery days. Otherwise, if you have just a rest day, and I don't know if everyone on this call actually does have a rest day, I have at least one a week where I'm doing nothing, absolutely nothing. And I have found that this is my 50th year. So as I am turning 50, I crave the rest day and I appreciate it much more than I did in my 30s and certainly more than I did in my 20s. But that can be a game changer in and of itself as far as making sure that you have a day that you're just doing nothing. So I'm not sure if that helps you, Emma, if you have a specific question about recovery movements, but what if you have knee pain? Oh, this is great. So should you avoid squats altogether if you have knee pain? And I love this question because we have a lot of runners coming in saying, I'm afraid to do squats because, my knees are hurting because of the way I did them. So the first thing we do is make sure your technique is good. And again, like I said before, 8, 9 out of 10 times, technique is not good. So once we get that solved for, if that's not the issue or any longer for why you have knee pain during squats, then we can modify with either isometrics, which is basically holding a position for 10, 20, 30 seconds and building strength that way first. And then progressing into where we do bodyweight squats, maybe from a higher surface, like I said before. So maybe we're doing partial squats instead of doing the full depth until we get the knee pain better. But there are ways to still do a squat without having to worry about worsening things. But what you want to be careful about anything that you do is that when you do have any kind of pain, that if it continues during the reps that you're doing, let's just say you're doing your squats today, and you find that after rep number 3, you're starting to feel this pain in the front of your knee. If that continues to worsen in the set, it's a good time to stop and just get it checked out. We offer like I said before, we have offered the free assessment. This is what it's for, because we want to keep literally, and it's funny I would say this, I want to keep you out of my office. As much as that could hinder my business, my whole goal with doing this with Fleet Feet is keeping our runners healthy, because healthy runners are happy runners, and happy runners make the world go round. So the happier you are, I'm happy to provide that sort of like sideline advice saying, listen, if this hurts, get it checked out to make sure it's not something that needs to be addressed more formally. Cool. Let's see. One question that came over our live stream was, speaking of recovery as a beginner, does every other day work for workouts? A day seems okay between. Yes, it can be, depending on what you're doing. So for example, if I'm lifting heavy on a Monday, and lifting my legs heavy on Monday, I probably won't do that again to Wednesday or Thursday. So having at least 24 hours in between to allow for the recovery of the muscle, especially if I have my training plan set for Fleet Feet or for a race coming up, I want to make sure that I'm not going to impede that training. So if I can wait 24 hours after the first time I've done that lift for the week, then that'll be enough time in between. And like I said before, for beginners, I'm totally fine with like 6 to 12, 15 reps with 2 to 3 sets in the beginning, just because you want to get your body used to those movements, especially as one of the viewers had said, not have to relearn everything, because I'm seeing that I've done everything wrong before. And this is a great time in that first month to just get used to the movements and get acclimated to it, and making sure that your technique is as good as it can be. Because then after that 4 to 6 weeks, we want to then start adding the load on there, making sure that you're progressing your strength. So again, that you're actually getting the benefit of strength training without wasting your time in the gym. Cool. If there are no more questions, so happy that you all came out. By the way, if you see me at the PR Squad on Tuesday nights, or over at Fleet Feet Morrisville, because I alternate between weeks, please come up to me. I'm happy to answer your questions. I'm happy to be a resource. I'm very passionate about keeping runners on the road and keeping them healthy and happy. So I'm happy to answer any questions that I can. If you need any kind of checkup or anything, and by the way, if you're on this call, you are entitled to come in for your free bonus. So happy to provide be a resource for all of you on this journey that you have. I don't know if it's your first time as a runner or if you're experienced like someone like Craig, but I want to make sure that you have your best year ever. And this could be it if you add in the right components to making sure that you do. And you'll have control over the running, of course. Now that you know what to do for strength training, we'll provide you some more resources after this. You're going to have a great base to be able to build your strength. And of course, watching your nutrition. What I have found is that runners don't eat enough protein. And just as some general advice for nutrition, I'm not a dietitian. What I can tell you from the research that we know, from the recent research that came out on nutrition, protein, you want to take at least about 100 grams a day. And it seems like a lot. But I would say that if you are a runner and you consistently run, you're always breaking tissue down. So you want to make sure that you can recover properly, and getting enough protein, which is going to help the building blocks of getting your muscle preserved and recover, is going to be a huge part of that. In addition, glycogen is restored when we eat carbs. So don't be afraid of carbs, especially if you're running. You're already burning enough at this point. Making sure that you supplement correctly before and afterwards, especially after your long runs and during, as you all know, super important to making sure that your recovery is good and that you don't get trashed legs the day after a long run in particular. Let's see. So that being said, if there are other questions, thank you so much for coming out. We do our free assessments, so that's something that you're all allowed to come to. Obviously, you'll have the free bonus to do that. If anyone is curious about our regenerative services, which you get to try when we do this, these are the things that we do differently than other PT practices to help get people better faster, so they get back on the road faster. Our whole goal is speed, getting you out there as quickly as you can, but making sure that we take a root cause approach to make sure that, yeah, maybe a plantar fasciitis, maybe you have Achilles tendinopathy or a runner's knee. If you're just kind of icing it down and you're using the formula, that's not a long-term solution, especially if you continue to get this over and over again. There's something that is driving that we really want to get to the bottom of, so that we can get you to a more permanent long-term fix. That is our goal here. Yes, speed, but also making sure that we're addressing the right thing, because I can tell you how many runners we've seen from other practices, other PT practices that supposedly specialize in running, and they've been in pain for months. They've been in pain for years sometimes with no solution. Get better fast with the kind of technology that we use and the kind of approach that we take. So if you're looking to get back to what you want to do faster and you've been dealing with something for a long time, my recommendation is get it addressed. I'm happy to point you in the right direction. Happy to talk more about this during your running assessment to make sure that you're getting the right help and you're doing the right things to recover, so that you can get back at a level that you're happy with, and at a performance level that you're happy with. So that being said, you all can reach me at jerry@nlphysio.com. You can email with me directly, and I will make sure that you get your bonuses. You can also email us at info@nlphysio.com if you want to get in touch and schedule your free assessment and also your free regenerative session with our Shockwave, BFR, and dry needling. So having said that, I just want to thank you so much again for coming out on Wednesday night, and hoping that you got what you needed out of this. And again, I'm happy to be a resource in any capacity that I can be. So have a great night, and I wish you all very, very well.